All right. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of Beer for the Right Reasons. Got my good friend, Mr. Adam here. I am Riley, your co-host, which is funny enough. Adam and I have talked a bunch online, and he's like, I don't think we've ever actually exchanged your name, which is kind of funny.
No, yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was really like, I don't know his name.
Yep. This is the nature of online relationships.
Yeah.
Welcome to 2021, I suppose. But yeah, we're back with you to talk some Bachelorette, which is going to be awesome. Another great episode in my opinion. I think the season is starting out super strong. First bit of news we wanted to talk about. I'll let Adam come in here and kick in with our news from Bachelor Nation, and then we'll discuss it.
No! Breaking news: Katie and Blake broke up. Finalists
Shocker!
from last year. They're
Oh my
gone.
God.
They're done. They don't care. They're quit.
It's almost like one person living in San Diego and the other person living in Canada / Africa half the year
Yeah.
is a difficult thing. What a concept.
It's not just like a normal cross continent relationship, if there is a normal thing for that.
Yep.
We're talking cross continent COVID, 3 time zones, plus I'm just gonna go to Africa half my life.
It's an interesting one. I mean, the guy definitely has a cool job, right? Like, absolutely, good thing to be taking care of folks over there. But yeah, definitely doesn't help the relationships very much. It made me sort of think of Nick Vile and Vanessa from their season, because she was Canadian and he obviously lives in LA with all the Bachelor Nation stuff. And she refused to move. He refused to move. Shocker, it doesn't work out,
Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious to see what happens with Joe and Serena. Although Toronto,
True.
Chicago's not that far.
And especially once COVID starts to, hopefully chill out here in the next little bit, then the border will be easier to get back and forth, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, they've already announced loosen restrictions as long as you're vaccinated. So
gotcha. That's great. So it made me laugh because there was definitely a really great tweet about Katie and Blake, and one was like, well, I guess Katie's entire season could have been an email. Because like the meetings that should have been an email, I'm like, that was a season that could have been an email, man.
Yeah, because I actually saw something similar, and I don't do it often, but I went and kind of creeped through the Reddit. What's up, Phoenix? Hey, Jojo.
Yeah, welcome in, guys.
Welcome to chat. I creeped the Reddit. I don't do it often, but I saw people call Peter's and then Katie's seasons the 2 most pointless seasons of The Bachelor / Bachelorette, and I thought about it, and it's like, we got no Bachelorette and really no interesting girls for Paradise from Peter's season. Did we? Like, I don't recall any. Maybe we
from
did.
Peter's season, there were some BIP folks, but I can't. I don't remember anybody that's like, oh my god, memorable. Yeah, or memorable.
Exactly.
I should say.
The only one that I cared about was McKenna, and that's because she's Canadian, and so anybody who's Canadian on this franchise gets, I'll pay attention to.
A little bit of love.
Well, yeah, just a little bit. And then the same with Katie's season. We got like the most important person from her season seems to be Thomas.
Right.
And she kicked him out week 2 or 3.
I would say Katie had some pretty good BIP folks. Like Aaron was a super fun thing through BIP because he kind of ended up getting the like good guy vibe thing.
Aaron and James, yeah.
And James, oh man, the bro duo there, the Bash brothers. My God.
I'm just trying to think of any other guys from her season.
Yeah, no, it wasn't super memorable to say the least.
And like her season 2, like there wasn't even fun traveling dates or nothing because she was the like final quarantine season.
And not a good quarantine season. Like I will have to say, Matt James, whatever resort they found for his Bachelor season was like, 10 out of 10, guys, because you produced a season with like not too much travel, and it was interesting at very least, right?
Yeah, they somehow had stuff going on, which was pretty cool. And then Claire and Tasha's, was okay. You
Yeah,
know, I thought it
very
was pretty all right.
quarantiney. Yeah, for sure.
But
For sure.
for quarantine season, I thought they made it work pretty good.
Decent. Right.
Maybe.
Claire is a horrible human, but otherwise
Yeah, she
the
was not a very good Bachelorette.
yep, not at
No.
all. Not at all.
I've seen some people crap on Blake though. They'll be like, "Oh, he's been on 3 seasons of The Bachelorette." I'm like, "Hey, pump the brakes here. That Claire Tasha thing doesn't really count as 2 separate seasons."
That's
right?
pretty true. It was funny. I saw a meme of it was Blake in one of those clown, or not clown noses, but like the eyeglasses with the nose, those things that people put on as a disguise.
Oh yeah,
and it was like soon to Michelle's season, Schmlake. It's like he's on four of them.
I've seen a lot of people are on his case about that, like about being like a Bachelor franchise whore, and then like part of me is like, okay, maybe, but then part of me is also like, have you seen any of the other like prominent people around this franchise?
I mean,
they get in and they don't leave, right?
I mean, if you're all of a sudden given a livelihood also, right, that just has to do with you kind of just living your life.
Yeah.
Would you be able to turn that down in your 20s? Probably not.
I would take that right now, and I'm 31.
Yep. I'm 33, and I'm like, I work no job and just kind of do an Instagram post every now and then. That doesn't sound too bad, does it?
No, I'd be all over it. But yeah, I don't know. And the thing is, like, I was actually thought that they were a better match than Greg and Katie, but I didn't follow either of them on Instagram or anything after the show.
Yep. I think that Greg and Katie had a depth that, like, you can tell when there's two people that there's a depth, whether it's good or bad, because you definitely still have to have a positive relationship, right?
Yeah.
But there was a depth there that, like, of caring, I should say, that I just didn't see with Blake. It was just too like happy fun times with Blake.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Like, as I just thought they were good because they just seemed to be happy and horny together, and I was like,
and that goes a long way for a few months until it doesn't. Right?
Yeah, but then what I didn't realize is that apparently outside of their little, like, the secret Bachelor produced get together hideaway weekends, that they didn't see each other at all. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I'd probably break up too if I was engaged to someone I hadn't seen in 3 months.
Yeah, horrible.
It almost seemed like both of them didn't care. So I think it just very much seemed to be a happy and horny relationship, like a summer fling.
Yep, good times, but that lasts about 3 months.
Yeah,
it's not atypical, but yeah. So let's jump into the episode for tonight, or I should say for last night. Starts off in the resort, typical bachelor thing. Michelle on her balcony, sort of thing.
The wistfulness and the inner monologue.
Yep. The one note that I took down was, man, did they give Matt James a better house and suite than they give these poor bachelorettes? Because hers was like this little like Juliet balcony that was like, it was fine and everything, but it wasn't like he had a house. You know what I mean? He had like a house at a resort. So that was the only thing that came to my mind.
All that I really took off the hop was when they had all the guys in the room, I was having flashbacks. I was like, this looks exactly like Claire's season. This room, the windows, the couch layout, the way everyone's in here.
Is it the same resort? I don't think so.
No, they're not that far away. So part of me is wondering is like, do they film at this resort, but then they're actually stashing everybody off-site somewhere else? But then they cut the clips where the guys look like they're on the resort even in their downtime. So I'm like, oh, maybe not. Maybe they just packed up a room and they liked the way this room looked for, shooting and framing reasons, and found a way to kind of recreate that, because that is a definite TV thing. So.
And it could be the same set designer potentially as well. They're like, hey man, we go with what works here on The Bachelorette. We get the views, so why not?
Absolutely.
Right. The other note I had was the men yelling out Michelle at the top of their lungs, not to her,
Michelle!
Which I'm like, you should be yelling that to her, right? Not just into the golf course ether, if you will, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Those are the kind of things that I sometimes just totally tune out on in this show, where I just like it. Just
fair enough.
Don't. Like again, all these super generic, like her little inner monologue moments, and where they, she's staring off and looking at a tree for some reason. And I'm like, whatever's going on here is not interesting.
These are the only things that podcasts like this talk about, rather than people that actually just want to watch and enjoy this show. The last thing I had before we get into the group date was her talking to Tayshia just a little bit at the beginning, and kind of going over the I love these men kind of thing. The one thing I thought was kind of funny is that Tayshia calls Zach, who is her from her season, calls him Zachary. And I was like, man, that's such
up on that too.
That's such a couple thing to be like, oh, that's my Zachary. And I'm like, oh God. Oh,
full names. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, I've been kind of the same thing. Most times when I've been dating people, if the girl's name, say, was like Stephanie, I would quite often, outside of very few situations, I would refer to her as Stephanie. And it's always been a thing for me too, to be full name. But
that's fair. No, maybe that's a person by person. I'm a nickname person. But absolutely.
There was something about the way that she said it, and I agree. Like, it perked up my ears instantly.
Zachary. Yeah, for sure.
But I had two other things here before we get to the group date.
Sure, yeah.
The first is Nate admitted that he kissed Michelle on night 1, and they didn't show us that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then I think because they were talking, who's gonna get the first kiss, and he put his hand up. He's like, I already did.
Wait, no.
Way to go.
They showed Nate kissing her, I think.
Did they?
Yeah, during his little time with her, didn't they?
Oh, I thought they didn't.
Oh man, I don't know for sure. We'll have to check on that one. I'm not sure.
Go to the tape.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is just a comment on Rick. Like, he's a bit intense for me, but he's also earnest.
It's the eyes.
So I believe it, Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple of memes. I'll speak to one of the memes later on that I saw, but that man, I think he's just got some buggy ass crazy eyes for a very good looking man. And second of all, he likes her. Here's the thing, he seems earnest. Like, he doesn't seem like fake and calculated. He just seems like he is completely swept up, but he's like so intense with it, Yep.
That I mean, I don't think either of us have him breaking top 5, so I'm almost worried for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it, but he's just a little too. There's people that really get into the process and appreciate the show and, really, really love that kind of thing. But sometimes those folks go a little bit too far.
Yeah, like I said, just seems a little intense. But like you said, at least he's intense in a honest feeling way. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you ready to hop into group dates?
You betcha.
Okay, so first group date cards comes. It is Brandon, Romeo, Rick, PJ, Will, Olu, Casey, Daniel, LT, and Peter. Try and remember all those real quickly. And the group date card said, today's lesson is love. And of course, we see what happens. I'll let you kick off kind of how the date starts based off of that card, right?
They bring all the guys in, and I don't know where they found this classroom, but they set up kind of a makeshift classroom.
It was cute.
They set all the guys down, and then 3 students come out. Now, were these her actual students, or did they just find 3 10-year-olds that were kids of production staff? Or what?
I don't know, but
because they're in California, she teaches in Minnesota. I don't think they would have flown
a couple
kids out.
Yeah,
and now the dark-haired girl, she was way too sassy just to be some random kid. I feel like she's probably that 10-year-old that has 50,000 TikTok followers or whatever, that kind of child.
She's the one that I had to go back and write down her name. I never would ever think of writing down a little sub character's name in one of these episodes. But Mia was the name of this little girl.
Mia.
And Mia was crushing it with the facial expressions. Yeah.
And she was sassy. Her barbs were good too. It wasn't just childish stuff. She had some good stuff going there.
Yep. And then they introduce those guys and hop into a math lesson, which of course Romeo crushes because he's a freaking mathematician for a living. Right.
I loved his answers because you could see him doing all the work and hammering it out real quick, where all the other guys, you could see them. It's they just wrote down random numbers. And close.
Yep. And it was also him trying to use his math and his answers and stuff to be kind of witty and cute, that kind of stuff. But
they started doing the math, and I legitimately started writing down. I was like live in time. I was like, oh man, I gotta through this. And I did get the right answer
for the first one.
Pretty good about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the first 1, one was like kind of doable. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, whatever the one was that was 16,168 was the final answer. I got that,
dude.
So.
Well, we got a mathematician in our midst too. Damn.
Oh no, because trust me, I had to BS long way this to get there. I'm sure Romeo just was like, "Oh yeah, easy."
Bam, 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 bam. Yep.
Yeah.
The kids, like as this first little segment goes, are giving Peter a lot of shit because Peter, just like Mr. LT, God bless their hearts, they are just not the smartest of individuals when it comes to
you can just tell they have that kind of magnetism where even if you didn't know him and you got into a group setting, you would just like feel like, yeah, I should toss a barb at him. There's just something about them.
Yep.
Where they like, like there's guys that are like that and you're like, oh yeah, I can just like chirp this guy. There's something about both of them that they both feel that way.
Absolutely. And then the LT doing the 2 negatives equal a negative thing. Oh man, too good.
Oh, and my guy Jordan can't spell protein.
Yes, he put the I and the E.
Doesn't know his I after E rule.
Too bad. It's unfortunate of him.
No.
Then it kind of goes to a few more little things that they go over, a few little cute competitions, right? My favorite was when Peter goes to try and ask Michelle for help, and he's like, Michelle, trying to be all cutesy wootsy, and frickin' my girl Mia comes in and she's like, leave her alone.
Yeah. I loved it. It was so good. Mm-hmm. And then one thing that I actually found was really interesting was one of the math questions was like, how many times is it acceptable to call me beautiful in a day? And all the other guys, right, or was that what it was? Yeah, wrote down infinity, and they hold up the infinity sign. And Romeo's like, I counted all the seconds in a day for you. I was like,
see, that kind of thing, that's cute to me. I think that's awesome.
I thought it was great, but I also thought it was unique because I was like, yeah, that's what a mathematician in math brain mode would be like. Okay, how long does it take me to say Q? Okay, 1 second, and then just go seconds in a day.
Well, and the funny part was that it didn't really land with Michelle, but it landed with Mia.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, he done that.
Man, I hope she ends up on the franchise in
God, please.
15 years.
Please, that'd be so funny.
Yeah.
And then it goes to kind of more Peter being aggressive behavior, right?
So Italian.
Doing very Italian, very very wanting the last slice of pizza sort of vibes. And sure enough, gets aggressive as hell when it's down to him and is it PJ, I think, at the end of the musical chairs. But that does go ahead.
The big thing that pissed him off though is they said, how do you spell narcissist? Did we just become best friends? The kids held as part of the spelling bee. And then Will wrote down Peter.
That was the best
and that
ever.
Set him off.
That was absolutely the best ever. I like talk about a barb, and Will is quickly becoming one of my favorites. Real quickly, I just wanted to say thanks Tony for the resub. Really appreciate it. Fancy indeed. But yeah, Will I think is going to continue to be comedy gold.
Yeah, he was pretty good. And then what I found really funny was Peter he gets like angry. He goes straight into angry Italian mode, and he's kind of like he has to like kind of bounce in place or whatever. And he's doing his little confessional thing, Yeah. And he's like, a narcissist only cares about themselves. And then 2 seconds later, he's like, what about me? He doesn't care about how it makes me feel. What about me? What about my relationship? And it's like,
oh God. Well, my favorite was when they cut to Will after he did it. He's like, I had to do it, man. His face went as red as tomato sauce. You know it was. I seen it. And he said, the way he said, I seen it was just, oh man, so funny. And Tawny's actually correct here. Narcissists do love to call other people narcissists.
That is true.
Very true.
I don't know enough about Will, but right now he's on my good side. And we can talk about people who've gone from good side to bad side a little bit later.
Yes, we can.
But that's the kind of stuff that I watch the show for, is those
Absolutely.
little interactions and stuff, because that's what I find the most hilarious every single time.
Yep. As much as we want to say we're here to watch people find love, we know that shit ain't it.
Oh,
Nope.
If it was all about romance, the show would not be entertaining.
Very true. So that sort of segues into the cocktail portion of the group date, right?
Yes, it did.
I put down that Brandon was the first one to take her for a first chat.
Which one's Brandon?
Brandon is the Portland guy.
Right.
He has the cool little stub earrings.
Yeah.
And so he takes her aside, and you can tell that she really likes him. He goes in there, he bombs on trying to be genuine and cutesy with this just I think he said something about having a dream about her.
I was want to stare at you and remember what you look like, so I can picture you as I close my eyes, wake up in the morning, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, just
it was like
bit much.
So clumsy, but she was like, that sucked, and then she kissed him because she didn't care.
Yeah, she's like, even if you're terrible, I still like you. You're still, and I think in the previous discussions she had with him, and even after that little cheesy comment, he's super genuine guy. Like, they definitely have a strong connection. That's for sure. What did you have next going on in the cocktail?
I was just gonna say, did you notice everybody, like, there was like 10 guys on that date?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Like 5 of those guys had some pretty wild shirts on. Did you notice like that? I don't know why that stood out to me, but like
Will's shirt
was in bright. He looked like cotton candy. And then Will was wearing the tiger stripes.
Oh,
there was a couple of guys wearing floral. There was one dude who was in kind of like a pink and white wavy thing. I think that was PJ.
I think that's become something I really like in men's fashion lately, is the loose kind of almost linen button-up shirt that has crazy patterns that, somebody 10 years ago would have gotten the crap beat out of them kind of vibes.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I'm so glad we're at that point in culture where, like, I'm here for the pattern game, let me tell you.
Yeah. I've got a shirt that's similar to that and it just has pineapples all over it. And
Amazing. Yeah, it's all like, dad Hawaiian shirt fashion chic, but cut into like really nice shirts.
Yeah, they're tapered properly now, so you don't look like a refrigerator when you wear it.
They're boxy on you, dude.
Yeah.
But
no.
So yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I got 2 other notes here. The first, cornhole with PJ. I was like, man, that dude would have gotten my rose. Absolutely. If someone wants to play cornhole with me.
Yep.
Because I got some friends, we're going ice fishing in a couple months here, once the lake freezes over, and I'm like, guys, we're gonna bring beer pong, we're gonna bring cornhole, we're gonna like hot dogs. Like, it's basically just like a backyard fire day, but we're gonna do it out on the lake and hopefully catch a fish or 2. So
absolutely.
Cornhole, that got a big thumbs up from me.
I feel like that's Midwest and Canada, like, to the T is the cornhole. Love it.
It's a fun one. I love it. And then we get to the big drama of the group date.
Yeah, good old Peter and Will going toe to toe, right? I think Peter says something to pull him aside, like, "Hey, bro, we gotta go talk or something, maybe we'll grab a slice on the way. I don't know."
Oh yeah, and I actually was like, okay, he actually wants to like talk this out, but again, he just goes full angry Italian, and Will refused to be intimidated by it. So they just start yelling at each other and then bless the editor who took their audio and took it down to 20% and then placed it over top of like Michelle and Olamide having some like heart-to-heart conversation.
Oh, that they might have barely heard that, but it was not in that same kind of way. Yeah, that was a good edit.
If that volume was true, there's no way they would have had their conversation. They would have been started bumbling. What's that? What's going on over there? It's like, yeah. So I thought that was funny, and then it brought us to the greatest line in the entire episode.
Go ahead with it, man.
Will is just grinding Peter's gears because he's always talking about pizza, always pizza.
Pizzapreneur, bro.
He's a pizzapreneur, and then Will drops the line, "What do you have to offer besides the slice?"
Oh, that's one of the best quotes I think in in maybe a few seasons of The Bachelorette.
So good. I'm Slice Gang for life.
Oh, Slice Gang. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it.
But like, that was one of those moments where when he said that, I was like, I have to pause this. I have to write this down. And plus, I had like a little wrestling fan moment. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. He did what?
Yeah, it was great.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, no, that was definitely the big beef during that little section. The last bit that I had, the last couple of things I had were Rick going in and doing his cute ad libs. Oh, yeah. The notes. And he comes in and he's like, gets her real close, kind of shoulder to shoulder. And then like, as she's filling it out, like kisses her shoulder. And I'm like, Rick, you're the guy on the first date that gets like a little love back. And you're like all over them. Right.
He goes ring shopping by the weekend.
Ooh, man. Rick has a John and Yoko thing going with Michelle. And I don't think she knows about it.
Yeah, I think she's into him, but like I said, he's pretty intense. Now that ad lib thing was pretty cute, so
I think it was adorable, absolutely,
and fully original. I have never seen anything like that. So I'm giving him props there, but
yeah, without question.
Yeah, he's pretty intense. Like I've never been that kind of guy who's by the second date starts talking about marriage and drops the L-bomb or anything, but I almost have a feeling Rick would. So
yep, it's our boy Rick. He's got crazy eyes and crazy intentions, but God bless him,
he's crazy earnest.
Yep. The last thing I had for this group date, I should say, is there's so many things here. Obviously, Brandon gets the group date rose, which I feel like Rick was emotionally scarred by the fact that it wasn't him.
Pretty sad.
And the other part was that Peter and Michelle have a little quick chat, right? And Michelle basically is like, bro, why are you yelling at a group date? This is aggressive. Why are you doing this kind of stuff? And he was like, oh, it's out of character for me.
No, it isn't.
Nope. That's just a Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's just how he acts when someone says, hey, Tony's down the street's better than you, Peter.
Oh, yep. I go to Tony's all the time. Indeed.
Sal makes a better pie too.
Ooh, his face is the color of cherry sauce.
Yeah.
So yeah, we move along to Jamie getting the solo date card.
Now, what did you think about his little speech?
It said a lot. It's funny how you can think about these things after you watch the rest of an episode. Because when he first said it, he's basically, for those that are listening, he said, it's as much about her dazzling me as me dazzling her sort of thing. And it's like, bro, you ain't the Bachelorette. She's got 29 other, okay, not 29 other guys anymore, but had 29 other guys. She doesn't have to dazzle shit. If she don't like you, you're moving on. But it was definitely, and he's sort of like put himself as the alpha of the group in his own mind. And I think that was just like the bros asking him, and he's like, hey, you're going to have fun on your date, right? And he's like, well, she's got to dazzle me, bro. Kind of like typical bro behavior, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I thought, at least. What about you?
I mean, I initially thought the speech, I'm like, again, I've said this before, it's like, man, you're getting in trouble for being a little bit too pragmatic on camera. Because on one hand, yes, you want to make sure it's like a job interview, right? It's as much you being interviewed as much as you are interviewing them, right? To make sure there's compatibility. And when he talked about that, I was like, oh, that's actually really important. You should learn about those things. But yeah, you're one dude in this Royal Rumble. Maybe work on your phrasing just a wee bit to come off less as, the alpha dog here and more as just a guy. Well, not to say don't be yourself, but I think the rest of the episode recolors some of this a bit and makes it sound much differently. So
yeah, I think a little bit of context and self-realization of where he is being on a television show should be there. But yeah, no, without question. So they go on their date. Michelle picks him up in a cool Jeep, and they go off to Joshua Tree to do some rock climbing.
I didn't know that was a real place, man. I thought that was just like a U2 album.
You thought it was like a State of Mind kind of thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
when I heard people talk about it, I was like, oh,
Nope.
Figured that was just, like, oh yeah, I went to Wonderland. I'm like, oh, good for you, man.
Yeah. No, Joshua Tree is very real. It's in the ether of this, like, where celebrities go out to take mushrooms and get, find themselves in the desert kind of thing. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show Entourage. Don't go back
Bits
now.
and pieces, but
it's aged
never,
really poorly, but
I bet it has. You know what else has aged really poorly? Austin Powers.
Ooh, I bet.
I couldn't get through the first half of the first movie.
Little cringy. Yeah. But in Entourage they eat these mushrooms and go off in there, and I think like that's everybody's experience of Joshua Tree, right? Hey Lag, welcome in, buddy. Yes, new podcast going over the Bachelorette. So yeah, they go rock climbing. He basically coaches her through the climb. I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, are you her rock climbing coach? He's like, put your foot there or whatever. But I guess it was just kind of being sweet, helping her along.
Yeah. I mean, I had no problem with that. She even said she kind of liked the dynamic there as well, too. Because, yeah, like there's, that was a pretty intense climb that they were doing, too. That wasn't just like some, baby climb. It wasn't a hike. Like that was rock climbing up a cliff face.
Real
So
rock
someone
climbing.
being like, hey, you might not be able to see, but you've got some more grip if you go, a little bit to the left or whatever with that foot. I was like, oh, that's actually really good. I like that. So
yeah, and I have to say, yeah, you can tell that Michelle in her previous relationships was the one that definitely did the coaching, right? Mm-hmm. She was definitely the one that took charge and maybe be more of the alpha in the relationships that she's been in. Mm-hmm. So maybe that was a nice turn on for her, and I understand that. Like you have a partner that takes care of things and helps you out. It means a lot, right? So
especially when you're used to doing it. Like I'm used to doing a lot of the planning in my friend group, or even in relationships. I'm used to being the guy who okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Okay, then I will look into booking and taking care of everything, blah blah blah. And I don't mind doing it, but then sometimes when someone else does it, and you're like, oh, this feels great.
I get to show up and drink a beer. What? This is amazing.
Stress about coordinating anything. I don't have to worry about times. You're going to take care of that. Awesome. So
yeah, pretty great.
Yeah,
so yeah, they get to the top of the rock face. Obviously, have their cutesy little couple of champagne glasses overlooking Joshua Tree. Which, my God, what a cool thing to get to be above Joshua Tree like that. Like, good job, Bachelor scouting crew.
Was pretty cool. Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to point out during this portion was his facial expressions when this man talks. Like, he does things with his face while he talks that I'm just like, you are one of the most expressive people that I've ever seen.
A little Jim Carrey, right? Like, kind of everything's always moving and
or being touched, or it's wild for sure. But yeah, they seem to connect there on top of the rock, right? They give each other some compliments. I think he says something like, you glow and light up a room kind of stuff. And then they go to their nighttime part.
Yeah, again, all those comments, all the parts of the show that I don't care for.
Fair enough. They're not the good parts. Yep.
No. But this nighttime part was actually pretty good because they got into a pretty heavy discussion, and just quick warning for anybody in chat if you're sensitive to this.
Yeah, trigger warning for sure for mental health issues.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to just play this as straight, no jokes or anything. It's not that kind of matter. Yep. So basically, Michelle talks about the kind of future she wants. She mentions how her parents have such a great dynamic, and she wants to find somebody to replicate that dynamic with. Jamie starts talking about how he never had that. His dad, it sounded like his dad took off and wasn't around at all.
It definitely seems like it. Yeah.
When he was even before his, I think it was his younger sister was born. I think he said he was around 5 or 6 at that time. So I don't even think he probably doesn't even know his, air quote dad.
Who knows? Yeah, for sure.
But and then he starts talking about the mental health problems him and his sister as children had to kind of, they had to deal with their mother, who was suicidal, and they found her attempting to take her life a few times.
Yep.
So
I remember him saying that when he was 12, found her with a knife, not in a good place kind of stuff. Yep.
And him and his sister would take turns staying home from school so that somebody could always be with mom to make sure mom was okay. And so, he's 12, like his sister, like I said, I think she was probably 7 or 8,
Yeah,
maybe
much
something
younger.
around there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty intense stuff, especially to bear that out on national TV
Oof.
on your first date. Like that's something that I probably would have hung on to until maybe I'd gotten off the show. If I were to make it all the way through, I
Yeah.
probably, because I wouldn't have wanted the world to know. So despite some of the other things we'll have to say about Jamie and some of the way we feel about him, at the same time, good for you for airing that out and being the person you are. So
Yep. Dealing with the suicide of a parent is something that most of us can't even fathom how horrible it would be. So definitely start, for all the smack that might be talked about Jamie later, he's gone through a lot in his life, and we have to be cognizant of that for sure.
Yeah.
What the one note I wanted to say about, on top of all that, Michelle is an incredibly empathetic person. Like, she was there, like, and I would be too, right? I feel like anybody with some empathy in their soul, not Katie Thurston, would definitely be there, like, crying, and that's what she was doing. She was there for him in a really real way, which I found super endearing about her.
Yeah, no, she definitely was entirely present, and you can tell she got a really big heart. So
yep, big bonus points for me for her as a Bachelorette. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So they kind of, the conversation moves on, gets a bit more lighthearted again. She gives him the rose. That's
absolutely
great. Awesome. They had a great date. Like at this point, I'm all aboard the Jamie train. And I even liked him in episode 1 because he was the first guy to grab her.
Oh yeah, like I said, like supreme confidence moves.
Yeah, that's a big. You get big points from me when you're willing to stand up and take charge like that. So
yep.
They walk in, and this is also one of my favorite little things, is I've never recognized a single musical act that performs these private concerts for them on a date. Nope. But I love how they always have to walk in and be like, oh my gosh, Bill Fillion was here. I can't believe it. Oh my God. Phil Billiam played us his song in our private concert.
Oh my God. I can die now. Oh,
yeah,
God.
And it's all these like country acts I've never heard.
Well, it's always a slightly country pop singer. They're not even ever really full country. It's always like country pop.
Radio country.
Yeah, I'll give her credit because the gal's name was Caroline Jones. Nobody knows who you are, sweetie. Like, I hope this vaults you to superstardom.
Absolutely. You know what? If this was Moments and I got to see it on TV and I can be a hipster and be like, I saw her when she was performing her song on The Bachelorette. Man. But there's so many of them. I think, actually, you know who it was years ago who had the best reaction? I think it might have been Jason on Becca's season.
Uh-huh.
Because he was doing the full, oh my gosh, it's No Name McNo-Name. I can't believe it. This weekend, wow. He was like so expressive playing it up. Because what I imagined was the producers behind the cameras like, okay, we need you to say these lines for the scene. And he like maybe said them and they were kind of dead. They're like, no, we got to do another take, Jason. Let's go.
Oh, God. So funny.
Like, okay, you want me to be excited? And it was like, oh, my God, wow.
Oh, too good. I love it. But yeah, next we kind of the one thing, last
commercial
thing on
break.
Yeah, quick little commercial break, and then we're back to. You know what's funny is I don't remember them doing the group date card saying it was basketball. I think they kind of just cut to her in a gym, and we're like, okay, here's what I'm passionate about. It's basketball. And the rest of the dudes are going to get down with it.
Yeah, actually, now that you're saying that, maybe there was, but I was watching the show and taking notes, so sometimes you do miss little scenes as I'm rewriting stuff in. So, but yeah, that was weird. But we do get our basketball date, which I was actually surprised they burned by week 2. But then I thought about it, and it's like, well, if you're going to play 5-a-side, right, you got to do that date pretty early.
Yep. So. As well as, like, this is a big part of her life, right? And not to say that she couldn't end up with a guy that, was terrible and had nothing to do with basketball, but you can tell it's important for sure. So maybe that was a quick weeding out thing for her. Like, hey, if somebody's like hates basketball, we're probably not going to be soulmates. right?
Yeah.
So
No, that's true. So.
Yep. So date starts up. Michelle's in there with, I have to say, the leggings game on the basketball area. Good for her. She's doing great. She's doing great. And she pulls in 2 pro WNBA players. I missed
Diamond DeShields.
Oh, here we go. Got some names.
Yeah, I got the names. Diamond DeShields and Derica Hamby of the Las Vegas Aces.
God, this is why he's on the podcast, people. He's just there in the streets doing it to him. Okay.
I definitely didn't Google it 3 seconds ago.
Not at all. Not at all. But the date sort of starts out. All the guys are going through their training camp, if you will, and pretty much everything. Like, these guys seem like they're all A, really good at basketball, but B,
most of them.
I love Nate going in for a layup at 6'8" and missing from like inches away. I'm like,
he's just throwing bricks, man. You're 6'8". You could place the ball in. Just reach up. Like, he's gotta have, like, if he reaches up with his arm, his arm's got to be 40% of his body length, right? Like you could place it. You could dunk.
That's what I thought he was gonna do. I thought all the guys were gonna do these little soft layups, right? And Nate was just gonna go bonk.
Just insane. I was actually hoping for like a real, like, slams it, hangs from it, swings around a bit.
A little bit of razzle dazzle.
Yeah, a little bit of dunk contest, but
I love it. Love it.
Oh well. But Joe is killing it on this basketball date.
He's the star.
Absolutely killing it. And then we find out that he was the top college recruit in the state of Minnesota his senior year in high school.
Yeah, he was the number one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mr. Basketball Minnesota. And Michelle was Mrs. Basketball Minnesota runner-up. Yep. Unfortunately. So there's another connection those two have, because it was the same year, so they absolutely would have known each other. Even if they weren't at the same school, they would have.
Oh, at a ceremony or something? Come on.
When you just get to any sport regionally at that level, it becomes kind of incestuous, and you just know everybody. You know that coach, you know that coach, and you know everybody.
And who doesn't?
All the trainers.
Yeah, what basketball loving girl doesn't have a crush on Mr. Basketball? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, it's clear that has carried over this last decade. And well, I have to say, someone found a picture on Twitter of Joe in his like University of Minnesota days, and he's kind of got this like half goatee thing that's not really working, and like all this, and I'm like, Joe, we done got a glow up here in the last little bit with the nice like shaved, like nice tightly shaved head and all this stuff. And Tani's totally right here. These guys got to strut their stuff on the court. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, and I don't blame him. I'm googling trying to find this picture right now.
Oh yeah, it's a funny one.
I found one where he's just got like a short fade, no bad beard. I want to see this bad beard.
Okay, I'll find it for you. I'll find it for you. Maybe I'll post it on Twitter for those that are interested. But it's a pretty good one. And not that he looks bad. He's still a very good looking guy, of course.
Yeah,
but it is like a nice dichotomy of 2021 fashion or facial hair versus yeah.
No. Or even 2013 or whatever it would have been. But yeah, Joe gets out there and he is beating everybody. And the thing that I really respect about that, and this is a guy who played a lot of sports, is I've played a lot of sports with guys who are really good. And when you're in the dressing room getting your gear on and stuff, will sit there and tell you all the stories about how amazing they are. I am so good. I am so great. Oh, I played with this team and this team, this guy, that guy, blah, blah, blah. I used to go to this tournament. And then there's the guy who just keeps to himself and goes out there and kills it. You
fucking balls out.
Really good.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's the option number 2 there. So I have big respect for that because he didn't say anything. He just went out there and all the guys like, man, Joe's really good.
Quiet. I think they called him like the quiet assassin or something like that. Silent assassin. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And because Nate's a big dude, 6'8". I don't know how tall Joe is, but he's maybe 6'2". Like, he's not a big guy. Super tall.
Yeah.
Especially in basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he goes one-on-one and just easily beats him, gets around him like nothing.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And he's also kind of balling his heart out because actually just before the date, he got news that his high school basketball coach, who was a huge influence on him, passed away,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
he was pretty emotional, and he wanted to kind of go out there and ball as hard as he could.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that was touching.
For sure,
But
that kind of segues into the team game, right? And
one quick thing there.
oh yeah,
Then Joe goes one-on-one against Michelle,
oh
and he
yes,
starts throwing up bricks, and she drains the deep, like he's guarding the line. She takes like 4 steps back and drains a three. Now it wasn't clean, but she still drained it.
drained
So,
a Steph Curry three like nobody's
yeah,
business.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. May as well have been standing on the court, the center court logo.
Oh yeah, she can shoot, man. She can.
Yeah. Well, especially for like women's basketball, one of the big differences is you don't typically have that as much of a power game in women's basketball. It's a lot more skill based. So it's a lot of passing and clean shooting and getting
Fair
clean
enough.
looks. Because,
yeah.
well, I mean, you just don't have. It's just a physical difference between the two sports. So
yeah, no,
yeah.
she can shoot from anywhere.
Yeah.
So they break these guys into two teams, the blue team and the red team. Blue team seems like they stacked the blue team and then basically just gave Joe and all the scrubs the red team because they knew that they probably knew his past a little bit. And blue team comes out just like roaring ahead. And I can't help but think that maybe a producer went to Joe and was like, why don't you take it a little bit easy for maybe the first 10 minutes and then we'll kick it into gear and kick all these guys' butts.
We'll make sure you're on the date. Don't worry.
Yep. You'll be the MVP. We promise. So, the Joe then comes back and does like, he probably scores like 30 points to himself.
I think the final score was 29-28. And if we're to believe, Joe had 22 of those 28 points.
Yep.
And same thing, like, he's just getting the ball, he's crossing people over, and then hitting like deep threes in the corner and stuff.
Joe is basically teen wolfing this entire other side of the team. So but he does come up like just short, right?
1 point, I think it was 1 point. Yeah, 29-28 or 30-29 or something like that. So one thing I did notice was, did you know when the poor Pardeep and they got this local sportscaster on to play-by-play the game, which I actually thought was pretty good.
Okay, I think we have differing opinions of this gentleman.
I found it amusing. Like it was slapstick, low-tier comedy, but I was like, you know what? It made me laugh a bit. So poor Pardeep goes into the corner to throw up a three and hits it off the top of like it wasn't even a shot. It was just like he just threw the ball at the rim. And then I actually saw on Twitter, pretty funny thing, as the episode was airing, he tweeted out, I'm better at 2K21 than I am at 21.
Nice.
All right. Nice. I like him. I like you, Pardeep.
Yeah, I hope. I really like him too.
Because like Nate was defending him, and when he saw, they were actually kind of double teaming Joe. And then when the ball got to Nate, not a single person on the blue team bothered to go over and try and cover him.
No, thank you.
Knew.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. He's gonna throw a brick.
Yep.
By the way, did you notice the jerseys were reversible?
I didn't.
I noticed that because at one point I think it was Joe lifted his up to like wipe sweat off his forehead, and you could see he had like a blue number or whatever on the white and blue. And so I was like, oh, so they probably like didn't come up. They probably didn't make up those teams until they saw like how good everybody was, because they needed to get their storyline out. So
totally,
I noticed that.
Yep.
But
then
blue wins.
Yep.
Joe gets MVP though, so he gets to come on the group date, even though he was Team Red.
And that's something we didn't. I don't think we said, like at the beginning. They said the team that won gets to go to the cocktail portion of the evening, and the team that loses was Dunzo.
Yeah. So what I found interesting about that is it reminded me of Ari's season when he had the bowling date, and one of the teams won, but you could almost tell that Ari was like, "Oh, but I want to hang out with those other girls instead." So like the other teams are winners.
Yep. And honestly, I thought they were going to do the same thing here.
I thought they were.
I'm more of the belief, like, don't cut out half these people's time. Like, make it a competition. Maybe like I think there was a thing a few seasons back where like the MVP got like specific time with the Bachelorette during the cocktail party.
Yeah,
And then
maybe.
all the guys still went. So that's what I was kind of hoping. But yeah, sure enough, Michelle don't pull no punches. She's like, you win, you lose, you are
Yeah, no,
out.
she's competitive. So,
Yep, yep. So
but
cocktail portion of the evening comes. Joe, Mr. MVP himself, grabs her first. I don't know if he grabbed her first or if the producers were like, it's Joe time. We're gonna cut that in first. But he tells her about his coach passing and how the date made him forget about about all of that for a little bit and feel good to be on the court. And you can tell that she likes this man. She's got like her arm on the nape of his neck the whole time he's talking in kind of this somber tone, just like massaging his neck. And I'm just like, ooh, girl ain't gonna do that unless she really likes him.
And to get back to the empathy, she 100% not just is empathetic for him, but can understand, because she, as most athletes will have at some point, had a really bad day. And then you go to the court, you go to the rink, you go to the field, and 2 hours, right? You're able to like turn off your brain and just do the thing you enjoy. And you could tell that like she was kind of vicariously understanding all of his emotions that way.
Absolutely.
And putting it together with the day. And yeah, so
yeah, it was clear that they, and I think she said something to the effect after they had that moment, had some smoochy moments, but she basically is like, I think she said, I haven't felt a crazy strong chemistry like this quickly ever in her life. That's what she
she's
said.
Super, super into him.
Yep. Then the other guys start talking about their relationship, and they're like, it's been a hot minute since Joe and Michelle came back. We're wondering if Joe's got a little bit of advantage here, and all the guys are kind of talking about it. The only one that kind of says he's not worried is Mr. 6'8" himself, Nate.
Yeah,
there was clearly,
one. I know this might be later at the big cocktail party, but there was a couple other guys then who were also like, I don't care.
Oh yeah. I feel like that was maybe just a different vibe at the time kind of thing.
But they started talking about it then, and Martin seemed to talk about it the most. And I'm not really accusing him of anything. I'm like, sure, if you think that he knows Minnesota, they know basketball. He's just doing math. He's not accusing them of anything dirty or anything. He's just saying, geez, I think he's got a leg up because they must know each other, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, Martin, with his glasses, his haircut, and his chains, again, looks even more like my buddy Danny.
He also, can I say I approve of the look? Like,
it looks great.
Your buddy Danny must be, yeah.
He's a stylish dude. Like, if Martin takes his shirt off in one of these episodes, and he's got a full chest piece tattoo, I'm gonna, have to call Dan. I'm like, man, this guy, twin, long-lost twin.
Yep, yep. That's funny. Too good. Then Mr. Nate himself pulls her aside as sort of the end of the cocktail party portion of the evening. Jokes that he didn't want to steal the spotlight. He didn't want to make the other guys feel bad because he's 6'8" and blah 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 blah. But when we really know that basketball clearly isn't his thing, even though I'm sure he was pushed into it throughout his whole life.
I'm sure he played it through high school and probably played it in college, not on the college team, but I'm sure he played it pick up and intramurals and some rec thing. But you can tell basketball wasn't a passion the same way. So
absolutely. So he gives her a kiss up. They have a good connection. All of this. Definitely more low key, I think, chiller connection than Joe. Joe's is very passion and deep and whatever, and his is more chill and let's
much
smooch
more
a little.
Second date connection.
Yeah. And he pushes her up against a pillar, making out with her. That's a pretty good, pretty solid. We're connecting on a second date move for sure.
Yeah. No. So that was pretty well all I had there. Yep. And then actually something I wanted to note is I actually recorded The Bachelorette on the American channel, ABC, instead of the Canadian channel.
Okay.
So I actually got all your American commercials this time.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me how different your TV is than mine.
Yeah? How, what are the...
All these shopping apps and stuff, all these different shopping apps, and you can buy homes on your phone now, apparently.
Oh, yeah, there's Rocket Mortgage, baby. It's good to go.
Yeah, and all these, get quickly approved for money, credit score, all these weird banking apps and money transfers.
Yep.
And then drugs. So many drug commercials, and it's like, call your doctor today, ask about this. It's like, I would hope that if I went to my doctor, he would tell me about the drug I need. I don't want to have to call up my doctor like, yo, doc, my dick's falling off. I saw these pills on TV that might stop that. What do you think?
It's gonna help.
Yeah, I would hope that I go, hey, doc, my dick's falling off. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get you some meds. You know,
Too good.
That's what that's all the commercials are, man. And then the other thing too is your junk food is unbelievable. Like your junk food commercials, we don't really have them the same way up here.
Come on, you guys have some actual reason and intelligence going into what goes in your body a little bit.
Sure, but when I see churro mini wheats or whatever it was, or cinnamon toast crunch but churros, I was like, okay,
gotta do it.
Okay.
Gotta do it.
Might have to do a friend of mine actually does an exchange with a friend. He'll send him Canadian chocolate bars and candy, and then the friend sends back boxes of American cereal.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. The Canadian it's called like an Aero bar or something that's got like the bubbles in it.
Bubbly.
We need to get that shit down here. Like that.
You don't have any of the the Cadbury and a lot of the Nestle you guys don't have, which is crazy.
Or straight up Mars bars are pretty hard to come by.
Really?
Yep. Kind of funny. Kind of funny.
I actually used to work for Cadbury out of college. I was a sales rep for them for a while, so I learned a lot about chocolate back then.
Very cool. Very cool. So cocktail party starts up, right?
Yeah, it does.
Brandon, Joe, and Jamie all have roses already from two group dates and a solo date.
One-on-one.
The first note that I have about the cocktail party is sweet baby Jesus. I wrote that down. Sweet baby Jesus, Michelle's dress. That is a stunner of a dress that she had during the cocktail party.
Now, do you like it better than her night one dress, or do you like?
I think this was the best.
Really?
I think this was the best dress by far so far.
Oh, because I wrote down looks great, not a patch on night one.
Oh,
that night one dress to me.
How dare
that,
you?
Like the gold and everything. I just thought
they're both phenomenal for sure.
No, she's gorgeous too. You could put her in a couple garbage bags and you wouldn't have to worry. But yeah, I actually wrote it down. Looks great. Yeah, not a patch on night one though, because I thought that night one look was good enough. Like I would forget my name if I were to see her in person.
Fair enough.
This one I would mumble, but I could remember how to spell my name.
Sure, totally. And first person to kind of get major time with her here, I think she pulls him maybe, is Rodney. And
good guy Rodney.
We love Rodney. Rodney is amazing. The one thing that I had a comment that was a little thing between my partner and I, we were talking about the Animal Crossing character Rodney, and he just has this sort of similar like good guy, cheesy vibes to him, and I love it. But
that's fun.
Yep. So she blindfolds him and does like basically a blind apple tasting, which this is producers all the way, and good job, producers.
Because he called he said he was a Granny Smith apple while wearing a red costume, red apple costume.
Yep.
And so she's like, we gotta teach you your apples, because she's big. She's a big apple girl. Like she's like talking all these flavors. Come on. So she has like 3 apples and a slice of pizza to try to teach him. We're like, all right, blind taste test. What's this? He bites into a Fuji apple and calls it, oh, that's the Granny Smith.
Oh, for sure.
Then
he knows
he bites into the Granny Smith apple and calls it the Fuji apple. Like, oof. Bud, what are you doing?
I worry about this man's reviews at restaurants because he ain't got no taste in there. Like it is burnt out.
And then he gets a bite of pizza and he's like, is that lasagna? Rodney, man, Rodney's great. He's the best. But Rodney, dude.
Did Rodney get like coronavirus like 4 times and just destroy his taste buds? Because it sure seems like it.
Is he a lifetime smoker who just quit and hasn't got his taste back yet?
Could be, man. Could be.
Who knows? Something about him. But yeah, like I said, Rodney's great, but boys, if I was cooking and said, hey man, tell me how this tastes, I'd almost be worried if you said it tasted good.
Yeah, you're like, Ooh, I need to add something to that if he likes it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So night kind of progresses a little, goes over to the guys talking about her knowing Joe, right? This is the little gaggle of
drama, really.
all the gaggle of dudes that are kind of up on the balcony, if you will, talking about Joe, and Jamie is definitely the one pushing this narrative. And somebody on Twitter, I think, I forget, we really should, I'm going to start writing down
Saving tweets and
credits for people on Twitter. But someone goes, Jamie got his rose and then he chose violence.
Yep. He absolutely did.
Yep.
Yeah. But because this is when it started, and so he's talking to Martin, he's talking to, it's really, there's like 4 of them, right?
Yeah, it's Martin, it's I'm trying to think of the dude with the blonde highlights.
Oh, there's Martin and there's the other guy and I'm totally forgetting.
Yeah,
that's not old. Is that Olumide?
No, that's not Olu. It's Malik, I believe.
Malik, yes. Malik.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Malik, and there was one more guy, and they're all kind of talking and gossiping about it.
Yep.
Yeah, and Jamie's high on his own farts now, and this is where we start to turn on Jamie, because he starts talking about integrity and honesty and implying that Michelle is being dishonest about her relationship with Joe, which is, I actually totally believe her when she explains it later.
Yep. And when it happened at the time, because I rewatched it when I was doing some note stuff.
Yeah.
The first watch, I was kind of like, I could kind of see what he's saying, because at the time she didn't really fully divulge like really what her and Joe's connection was, other than just, hey, Mr. Basketball, I've sent you some DMs and you ghost me kind of thing. And then, obviously we'll talk about what she says about that. But but he definitely is pushing this is what people are saying thing, which makes me think hard of, is it Carl from last season? On Katie's season? Yeah. He was the one that's like, this guy's an actor, like kind of like how Thomas was. But he was like even a more evil version of Thomas. And they're like, he's like, oh, I'm hearing this from all the guys. And sure enough, like,
one guy he had a conversation with.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the same thing here, because my notes just go, Joe drama, and then I go, I'm on Olumide's side, because he said, yo, man, just focus on yourself.
He said her choice is her choice.
Yeah, and like basically he's like, focus on yourself and your own relationship. But Jamie just keeps sharing that goss, and now I have boo. I have the emoji where it's like, and then I have geez, and then oof.
Yep.
And then I have 4 people does not equal whole house.
No. So, and it gets even worse when Jamie starts pulling Martin aside by himself, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking about this, like, this buddy of his that sees Michelle coming out of a bar with another person of color and says, oh, she's booed up with him.
With a light-skinned baller.
Light-skinned baller. And I'm just like, oh, God. This is cringe.
That was like, ooh, now you're starting to push things too far, because one, she knew she was being on the show, so and like, girls can have guy friends too. That's the other thing.
Absolutely.
And also, okay, so before she went on the show, she went on a date with some guy.
Cool. Like, also, like, in my opinion, like, you want to go hook up with somebody and have some fun before you start going on a completely single dating show.
Yeah.
Go nuts, man. But,
absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, Martin himself, the funny thing is Martin responding, and he's like, did you forget about this information until now? Like,
that was like, so funny.
You just went on a one-on-one date with her, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so you bring this up now, and he was like, okay, now this is starting to sound a bit sus, you know?
Yep. Jamie was holding on to this one till he was in a little bit of safety, if you got my
What I think would happen was maybe he's right, and he did know these things, and he seems to stick to it. Yeah. But I also wonder if he started to feel a bit threatened by, you know, the gossip around Joe and Michelle, and he's like, oh, I gotta do something here.
And you can tell as the time goes on that he is not a man that likes being upstaged.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he sits down then with Michelle herself and he's like, I gotta talk to her. I gotta talk to her about this, right? And he says that there's been this talk that she knew Joe before all this.
Whole house is talking about
Yep.
it.
And he said he doesn't care. No. He doesn't care. But the people have been talking about that when he had literally just told the guys the opposite. And he's the one stirring the pot and talking shit. So
Yep.
very Carl-esque. He says something like, people are out here questioning her authenticity. And yeah.
Who was it? There was another one that was like that. Oh gosh, what season was it now? But I remember, and I should have thought about this before speaking. But yeah, there was another one where it was like, you guys are all questioning my. Oh, I think it was Claire and Dale. Remember?
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, did she must know him before, blah blah blah. And then she was like, you cannot question my integrity, blah blah blah. But it's like, well, with Claire it was a bit different with because she didn't really explain it at any point. She basically told everybody it's no one's business.
Yeah.
I can do what I want. Where when Michelle came out and explained it, it was very, again, honest and open, and you go, oh, okay, like I can believe that. She's like, yeah, we're both from Minnesota. I knew about him growing up.
Of course.
But, then it's been also 10 years or whatever.
And she made even a cute joke about like, yep, I tried to DM him and he ghosted me. We laugh about it now.
Yeah,
like,
we had 2 messages and that was it. And
great way to handle it. Like adults.
Just about all the guys are like, okay.
Yeah, cool enough, bro. Yeah, no problems.
Right.
No problems.
Fair. And I'm sure they probably talked to Joe and he probably said, yeah, that's what it was. I ghosted her.
Yep.
But then the cocktail party gets canceled. And that's always a big thing because that means lots of guys who didn't get a chance to chat with her now are nervous because they're like, I didn't get any one-on-one time. We're going into a roast ceremony. I don't know how she's feeling.
I mean, the only one-on-one time they show is Rodney.
Yeah.
No one else gets one-on-one. I mean, unless it was like a quick, little montage of loving the guys kind of thing. But I think it was just Rodney and maybe, it was probably a couple of others that were edited out, but that was it. So yeah, they definitely didn't get that time.
Yeah. And so we cut into the roast ceremony now.
Yes. And Michelle comes in and says, obviously this, and this was after she had clearly taken some time and being upset and all of this, Tayshia and Caitlin told the fellas that she's not in a good place. Right. And
one thing actually I forgot is that then what the funny part we forgot to do was that it cuts back to the guys being like, who ruined Michelle's night? Who was talking shit?
Oh yeah, true.
Ross? And Jamie's just like, yeah, I don't know, man.
Chirp.
I don't know what's going on.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Oh man. Yeah. What kind of dickhead would do something like that?
Yeah, seriously. And everyone's like, yeah, man up. If you said something, just let us know. And it's like, yeah, I don't know who was saying anything. It's
nope.
Like, But you had me rooting for you.
Yeah, there was a lot of Tyra Banks memes in Twitter of the, we were rooting for you. yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, so she basically, comes in and says like, I'm pissed, but I'm trying to stay as vulnerable as I can to be open to this process. But basically, you bitches do this thing again, my walls are going up. And I don't blame her, right?
No, I wouldn't blame her either.
Yeah. And
so I don't know if we want to recap who gets a rose and who doesn't. We always just talk about who's eliminated.
The one thing I wanted to say first was she says that right before she hands out the roses, she says that if you accept one of her roses, you accept to trust her as she will do with you. And I'm like, I actually found that really like one of the best things that I've seen a bachelorette do in those kind of situations where it's like, bitch, if you like talk all this drama, I don't care who did it. Obviously you all were quiet as mice when I asked. So if you don't like me, if you're not about this, you accept this rose, you're in. You're a part of the club, buddy. And I thought that was really cool that she did that.
Yep. And I wouldn't say there's any real surprises on who she keeps on the show. Nope. It comes down to it. Final rose goes to Peter because it has to, because it's television.
Yep. Exactly. The only rose thing that I thought was funny was when Rick gets his rose. Rick gets obviously she's in a vulnerable state, and Saint Rick is ready to come to the rescue. She's like, "Hey Rick, will you take this rose?" And he's like, "Yes, please." Just this kind of very
like
creepy.
whispered it almost.
It's like, "Yes, please, I would." I was like, I wrote down, "Ooh." So that was pretty good.
But we come to the rose ceremony, and honestly, up until this point, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, "Wait, where's Tony Romo? Where's Alec?
Where is that beautiful soul?"
All of a sudden, it comes down to, this is the final rose, and then we get a shot of his face for 1 second, and I'm like, oh, there he is, because he was in nothing, and I was actually like, oh, did he go home?
Yeah, I thought maybe we fucked it up.
And they were like, whatever, we don't care, he doesn't get screen time. And then it just shows him, and I was like, oh, there he is, there's Tony Romo.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And he had like such a I don't think he didn't even seem upset. Like his like little hug was like so brief. It was kind of like, okay.
It is what it is, man. Yeah, totally. And it was the same. I wrote down with PJ. He kind of gave her the like side hug,
half hug.
The like, yeah, girl, I get it. There's a lot of nice guys here. You don't like cornhole as much as me. Cool.
Like the kind of hug when you're, you've got a lot of people. And you're like, hey, yep,
out of here.
Yep.
Like he's like, I've got a Canadian guy up north named Adam that I can go and play cornhole with anytime.
Absolutely.
I don't need you, girl. I don't need you.
I will tweet Adam, say he's invited to go ice fishing. So
I love it. And then of course our poor boy Pardeep, like doing one like with the representation for the Indian crowd. I was really hoping he would go deeper than he did, especially since there was no
suit on.
Yep,
and they're really sharp.
Yep. Because there was no representation for like all of Asian culture in this group of men, which is not uncommon for the Bachelorette, but it was I was kind of hoping he'd go deeper for sure. Seems like a sweetheart.
Yeah, no, he seemed like a good guy. And then our other firefighter, so PJ, and I forgot the other guy's name. Daniel, right? As well. He's the guy who came in on the Paw Patrol truck.
And he went home. He didn't none of these guys are a super surprise. The surprise that I had kind of near the end of the Rose stuff was that Clayton was so late. He was the second to last behind our friend, Pizza Sauce here. So yeah, that was something.
I guess, but I sometimes I wonder too about the editing there. Final Rose is pretty tough, but sometimes I wonder because I'm sure if I FBI'd it, I could find inconsistencies in the rose ceremony.
Maybe because there could be some tinfoil hat stuff going on here.
Plus, you also know that why would she keep Peter around? There's no chemistry there. She basically told him off in this episode.
Oh yeah,
and so maybe there's a producer like Clayton,
and then Peter.
Okay, yeah.
And then Peter, because we need some drama. You're too kind, and some of these guys are too kind. Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So then it kind of cuts into the week preview, right? Like or I should say we'll just call it the flash forward, if you will. Starts off with Michelle. I think next week we're gonna get a one-on-one date with Rodney, which looks pretty cool.
It looks like it, yeah.
It looks like they're gonna have a ton of fun. Where he's going to be naked for some reason, I don't know.
I love it. I don't care, but I love
fantastic.
it.
And then
he's not a normal jack dude, and I'm not trying to be like I'm just not trying to shit on the guy, but he's not a big jack dude. Like a lot of these guys have got their abs and their nice pecs and shoulders and stuff. Now he's a well-built dude. He's in good shape, but he just doesn't have that Gap model, abs underneath his shirt or whatever. And I was kind of like the fact that he just seems like completely unaffected around all these other good-looking dudes.
Yep.
That are all ripped, and he's like, yeah, I'll get naked and run around, sure.
It wasn't a look at me, I'm beautiful naked bullshit.
No,
it was this is funny. Let's have a laugh here.
I'm sure most people have been to some kind of a party, and I remember going to one just out of high school, and for a reason, it's like, oh, it's like -20 out. You guys want to go run outside in our boxers? Yeah, sure, that'd be hilarious. Let's
Yep.
go run around the outside, and then we'll jump in the hot tub. Like, oh yeah, let's do it. You know, that was that kind of vibe where it's like, just having fun. Like,
He's a good
yeah,
dude. You can tell
and
he's a good dude.
I really like Rodney.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they kind of flash into what I had
Flight
kind of
school.
mentioned was the flight date, with all of them in their Top Gun gear and the G simulator, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really
And
have
they
too
got
much to say about that, but yeah.
there's a little looks like they might do a little bit of combat training, because
Oh,
they
right.
looked like they were doing some kind of fitness thing for a bit there, and I wondered if they're gonna, get them all, riled up, and then they
Yep.
have their little American Gladiator, Q-tip
Yes. Yep.
battle thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like,
those.
oh, Peter versus Will, 100%.
Please and thank
100%.
you.
And what I want to have happen is one of those two guys wins, knocks them off, but the other guy doesn't give a shit. And he's like, whatever, I'm still gonna swing, and I don't care that I got knocked off my pedestal. It's time to go.
Time to
I
unload.
just want to see it go nuts.
Oh, I'm ready. We're going Bachelorette Gladiator mode next
You
week.
bet.
I love
I'm
it.
down.
And then it cuts to a little bit of Jamie talking about how he has no competition here. I think he's talking to a producer of some kind in a little back room.
I can't tell if it's a producer or if it's like a conversation that he had and they didn't have a good camera setup and they like ran someone over.
It was talking to a woman that was clearly not
was
Michelle,
I
think.
Okay.
At least from what I remember. So I think it was one of the producers. But yeah, sure enough, it was like, oh, I'm better than these dudes. Ain't nobody can touch me. And I'm like, oh, well, way to play it up, buddy. Way to play it up. And then it kind of goes to the guys like freaking out, right? Like, oh, it's the typical end of the preview sort of thing. Like, oh my God, this craziness has happened. What did this guy do? And, it's all tinfoil hatty because those are like 600 episodes and clips cut together into one little piece. Like, who knows who it could be about?
Jersey Shore used to be one of the worst offenders for that because I binged that over quarantine. And when you get to the end of the episode and it does its like quick thing, and then you open the episode and it's like, oh, so this whole episode has 5 crazy things happen, but you edited all the reaction shots into the one moment to make us think that, oh, I have to be there for 8 p.m. next Thursday on MTV to watch this. And
smart.
Yeah.
And then that was pretty much, I think Michelle mentions something about trust being huge, and it kind of cuts to black a little bit.
After all that Jamie stuff, that's going to be a plot line.
Yep, for sure.
We already got our week 3 plot line. It's going to be Will versus Peter on the group date.
Yes.
And Jamie. Oh, and go Rodney, go.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jamie trust, I have no competition, Michelle wanting everyone to be honest and open, jazz.
Yeah, that's typical.
So
the episode ends, of course, with apparently something we have a differing on opinion on, which
I thought it was funny.
Kind of funny. Their funny little gag of Homeboy giving people his introductions, the little basketball announcer.
I liked it.
I don't know. I think if it had been a little more clever, and of course I'm very biased because back in the day we had Fred Willard for everything, the guy from what's the Best in Show and all of those. Do you remember Fred Willard at all? You would know him if you saw him, like actor that's been in a million things.
I'm sure I may have seen him, but
yeah, he would always be
host or something.
No, he's an actor, but he'd always be right next to Chris Harrison when they did sports events.
He was that
the older guy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and he's got that great voice, and he's like, I want Fred Willard quality, and like, R.I.P. The man was epic. Passed, I think, in 2020, but. Yeah, that's just that my standards are too high, from the past. So
I don't know. I just thought it was amusing because, like, I don't know, it was a few jokes that were kind of like funny-ish, but completely like child friendly.
Sure.
And the thing about these end of episode segments is like, if I want to see so he did that, but we would have had no idea if you didn't watch through the credits, and I thought that was mildly amusing. And same thing with Tasha and Caitlin last week on the broken bed and everything funny. That Paradise ends on. I'm like, why don't you show more of these? Like, I could do with less, generic, I can't wait to be in love, like things. and just put in 30 seconds of the weird gags. And, you know, when a guy drops his tomato and it splats, oh, my shoes are ruined. I don't know, something.
I feel like sometimes the Bachelor, Bachelorette has to work so hard at being, this is a real love show.
Yeah.
This is not people on TV. Buy in.
Yeah.
And when the
true.
real truth is, we know that, maybe 40-50% of bachelorettes that choose their dude stick with them, and like 10% of the bachelors pick their ladies and stick with them. It's a TV show. Let's have some fun. Like, play up the fun parts of it. And I feel like maybe quarantine made things a little too serious, and we could just use a little more of that, you know. So
yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, I just wish we could see more of that, because when you see those clips, I'm always like, oh, that was really fun. That was enjoyable. Like, and
absolutely.
You know that they're probably doing that every date. There's probably more golden clips of our girl Mia roasting those guys.
Amazing.
Give me a 20. You know what? Put it up on YouTube. Don't even put it on the show. If you want to put it up on YouTube, give me a 20-minute supercut of Mia.
Oh, amazing! I'm here for it. I'd
watch it.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but that kind of finishes everything up for the second episode of Michelle's season. Not too terribly much more that we have to chat about. We'll be back next week. I appreciate everybody hanging in and having some fun with us on Beer for the Right Reasons. Thanks again to everybody hanging out in chat as well. For those that are going to be watching this on YouTube, we do this every Wednesday for the most part at about 6 p.m. Pacific if you want to catch the podcast live. Otherwise, we'll keep loading those episodes up. Appreciate all the likes and subscribes there. Appreciate that. And we'll see you guys next time.
Same bad time, same bad channel.
Indeed. Thanks again to everybody in chat hanging out. And thanks again, Adam. Dude, it's a lot of fun.
You bet.
Cool. Well,
all right, everybody.
I'll go ahead and end the stream for those hanging on.